Cruisin' 92.1 is WVLT Vineland, serving the Delaware Valley with the best music and the best talk.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect that of radio station WVLT, Clear Communications Incorporated, its staff and management, or our sponsors. WVLT Clear Communications Incorporated retains the right to record all phone calls received during this program for future promotions.
Hey everyone, happy Saturday today. Great weekend again, beautiful weather. We don't know if it's going to be cold or hot, but Main Street Money, 92.1 Cruisin'. We're here every Saturday from 1 to 2 with my co-host, Traci Kelly.
Hi everyone.
I'm Joe Yacovitch. We talk about money, issues pertaining to the current environment, and we have some fun with it.
We try to.
We do our best. Just to let you know, Trey, it's the markets is out of control. We talked about this the last couple of weeks that the market reached an all-time high. Dow Jones and the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq all reached highs this week.
That's a good thing.
Yes. Optimistic planning for long-term strategies is what we talk about. And some people ask us, why did the market go up?
Why did it?
Well, simply is more supply and demand. More people are taking money out of the cash position, and they've been in cash for, I think, 07, maybe, 08.
Oh, a lot of people have been in since, the big crash in 08, really.
Yeah. And everybody did obviously the emotional thing, putting all your dollars in the cash, thinking the world's going to come to an end. And what evidently happened, the market came back stronger than ever. And I'm happy to hear that.
Absolutely. I know that the trend right now is that we're seeing a lot more cash being pumped into the markets. And a lot of that, they're saying, is attributed to those people who in 07, 08, 09 were either moving out into cash or just liquidating altogether. And those people are jumping back into the market now. So that's an inflow there.
Well, Trey, it's not only the cash that's coming in from the bond funds and CDs, which are almost next to nothing, but a lot of other good things are happening. You have interest rates probably at the lowest it's been in close to 50 years. Mm-hmm. You have unemployment kind of hovering but looking to start to decrease. You have people that have a lot of money and now transferring from their 401ks, which we'll talk about in a couple seconds, transferring from the cash position into the stock market again. So all good signs. You also have housing finally starting to take off. So all those things that we're talking about and we'll discuss throughout the hour are starting to be positive and going in a direction that I've always thought it would be. Most people think after 07, they've never seen the low of the low. But now you're going to start to see, and by the way, for those of you that don't know this, some facts, the market was at an all-time high back in 2000. Had the tech bubble. Remember the tech bubble?
I remember.
Tech bubble, bang, market went down, came back, 07, had the housing problem. So we're back to where we originally were, and all positive signs going forward, and I'm feeling good about it.
Well, talk about sunny days up ahead. Even USA Today had a recent article entitled "Economists Gain Optimism." I don't know too many happy economists out there, so that's a good thing in and of itself. But basically saying that stocks are priced right and the bull market's getting stronger and stronger. You see General Motors came out with their 2012 profits, $5 billion.
Oh.
I mean, that's an industry that a couple of years ago we weren't sure if it was going to make it. And here we go, $5 billion profit. And Warren Buffett just bought Heinz at $23 billion and half of all its debt. So
big acquisition happening, folks. So what that means is he's buying things with a lot of debt on the corporate profits or corporate balance sheet. So that's telling all of us that being optimistic, as we all are, or we hope we are, the market will continue to start to grow and come back. And we're seeing that with all the things we talked about, low interest rates, housing starts, people going back to work, and such. And, and the other thing, after we had the fiscal cliff, is the next, problem we're faced with is how do we how's the budget dealings with the government? How are they going to start to consider cutting back some of those entitlement programs and health care programs and so forth? So,
are you alluding to this sequestering issue?
I didn't want to say that.
I don't want to say nonsense.
Yes.
But that seems to be the word of the hour. It's funny. It went from, fiscal cliff to debt ceiling, and now all of a sudden, the past week, everything's been sequester. I just think they like finding fun little phrases.
Another new little a word we have to learn and know about. But again, our focus, folks, and it will always be this way. Focus on the long term. Always talk about the long term in the stock market, especially what's happening. The other thing you need to understand is that we're going to give you some numbers on what we feel and what's happening in the stock market. And I think we were talking about the 401k contributions and what's happening and what people are doing right now of putting their money back into the stock market and back into their 401ks and getting out of cash positions, going back into the equity position.
Yeah, and Fidelity actually just came out with 2 new studies, and they pointed to 2 major results here. One being the average American's 401k is the highest it's been since 2001.
Oh.
Yep. So the average account values they're up at over 10-year high. And the second finding is that workers who stuck with their investment strategy, so people who remained within the same job, pretty much did the same contributions over the last 5 years, saw their account values, ready for this, quadruple. Not just rise, but quadruple. So to me, that points out that those people that just kind of stayed tried and true and were continuing to put away, they're reaping the rewards now.
Well, not only they're reaping the rewards, as you say, but I think they're starting to get not only on board with saving more, doing away with debt as much it was talked about some years ago in 07 and 08. People are starting to realize, you know what, you can't make $1 and live on $1.05. They're starting to put money back into the market, be more confident. They're starting to realize you have to save. They're starting to realize because of health care and the government changing the rules, they need to start to take real full action on their own self-worth because the government's not going to do it for us, and we know that.
No, and that's the truth. Taking action is the only way that you can truly save yourself in this economy. And that's what we help our clients do. We invite you to give us a call with your questions, 856-751-1771. Visit our website, www.jmlfinancialgroup.com. Drop us a line. We're going to be reading some questions later in the hour. But you're right, Joe. It's taking action. And a lot of people were saying, as I read this study from Fidelity, that, well, of course your account values are going to increase. You've been putting money into it all this time. Well, when they did an analysis and dissected these accounts here, 2/3 of those increases in the accounts were actual market growth, and only 1/3 of the increase was contributions. So those people that just stayed disciplined and continued to go on with their strategy, contributing, really, they saw their gains. They see their gains.
Our big belief, what we always talk about, Tracy, we stay focused, we stay prudent, we look at long term. The biggest problem we both see it every day, is the media says things and there's patterns and they like bad information and they're misled constantly. It just saddens me when I see this. And when we come out there and explain to people, it doesn't have to be that way. You need to have redundancies. You need to have plans in place. And you need to save money. At the end of the day, we talked about this of trying to lose weight. You got to move more and eat less. And it's no different than saving for your own retirement. You have to live on a little less and save more and not just depend on the government to take care of you because of all the other surrounding issues. You have the market problems, you have housing problems, you have health problems, you got Medicare problems, you got other issues. But our philosophy is scientific. We want you to understand it's not only putting dollars in the market in the United States and such, but it's be able to have a global portfolio that's diversified, stay prudent, rebalance. So that's our real pet peeve with most people, and they don't really completely understand it because of the information they're being thrown to constantly from the media, from the TV and the talking heads and the magazine articles. Remember, folks, when you read any of these magazines, a lot of times it's not for you to read. It's for the people that are making very, very, very little money, so they deal with the masses. We need you to understand, our listeners, to understand that diversification is the key element and continue to put money in the market when the market goes down and the market goes up. It's a continuous way of investing for the future for yourself and looking at it from the long point of view.
Well, and I think when we talk about being committed or disciplined or prudent, it sounds just like, okay, keep contributing. But the truth is, you want to do that because the last thing you want to do is pull out when the markets are going south and then put back in when they're back on the high. So all of these people who stayed disciplined and continued with their investment strategies through 07, 08, 09, what happened was they were buying at the same rate while the markets were going down. So these investors were able to buy 2 times as many shares, if not more, than they normally would have been able to buy. So as those accounts grew in value, as the stock market went back up, you're seeing major increase. Those who did stay the course and didn't move out of fear really reaped the benefits because they're 2, 3, 4 times the amount they were allowed to buy. They were able to buy with that money was just exploding.
Well, also, Traci, what we talk about, again, with our clients and people in general, everywhere we go, is you need to have a plan. But more importantly, you need a perfect plan. It has to work under all the conditions that you and I see every day. If interest rates go up, if interest rates go down, if gas prices go up or down, or healthcare go up and down, or taxes go up and down, or inflation goes up or down. It has to work under all and every single solitary situation. We don't do boilerplate planning for people. So we are big believers of the first question is, should be how the money goes in is more important than where it goes. So we need to understand, people in general, that it's more important to look at long-term strategies, stay prudent, and continue investing in the market. Because what we see today is a big optimistic view on what we just talked about, but all the other things that are happening with us, with the market and with the bond prices. They're talking about something about bonds. You want to mention bonds the other day? What happened at that?
Well, there's a lot of talk with bonds now with interest rates being so low. A lot of talk with bonds not being the way to go. And actually, there were some warnings issued. One of them were by FINRA, which is the governing body that governs us as brokers, stocks, mutual funds, issuing this warning to investors regarding buying bonds. Because right now, bond rates are very low. And what's going to happen in the future is bond rates interest rates will definitely rise. So as interest rates rise, your bond that has a low interest rate on it currently is not going to be worth as much as the new ones coming out. So the last thing you want to do is have a very long duration, where sometimes you'll hear the word maturity, and that's really the amount of time that your bond sits there. So it could be a year, it could be 5 years, 10 years. But that warning is against, your 10-year bond, that may be a bad investment.
Right. I guess we use the analogy we use is the teeter-totter.
Yeah,
if you think
absolutely.
of a teeter-totter, as one side goes up, the other side goes down. Well, just imagine when you buy a bond, it's like a teeter-totter. If it's a percentage, whatever it may be, there's a par value. That's what you pay for the bond. But as interest rates start to go up, which it looks like they will eventually do or go in that direction, what happens to the bond price? It goes down. So you need to know that. Just because it's safe and secure does not necessarily mean that the money inside the bond or the bond itself is not going to fluctuate with interest rates. So be aware of that, ladies and gentlemen, because it's important for you to know when you do invest in the market and when you do invest in your 401k and or any other investment that you might own, just remember that bond prices fluctuate with interest rates.
Yeah, and we're not necessarily saying that bonds are a bad purchase, but you need to know what you're in for and what your bond entails. So if you're not sure, take a look at your prospectus, call your broker, call the company, and what you want to ask them is what's the duration on your bonds and what's their outlook on the interest rate fluctuation. And for those of you who have maybe a bundle of bonds in a mutual fund, you're going, you know what, I've got multiple bonds that are sitting in there. How will I know the duration? You want to call, again, your broker, or you want to go to somebody like us, and we look at these things every day, and we can tell you the average duration. So if it's long-term, well, long-term from now, I'm going to say interest rates are probably not going to hover where they are now.
Well, most of our bond portfolios, and when we do put a portfolio together for clients of ours, it doesn't matter if it's a 401k or regular money. Remember, some of your money is put into a fixed or a bond type of portfolio. No one puts 100% of their money in the market. You need to understand that. So remember, that's number one. Number two, what we do is we never look at bonds more than 5 years. We have 5-year rolling averages because what we found from history that because bond prices go out most of the time in mutual funds, they go out somewhat 20 years. We cannot, especially today's environment, the interest-sensitive environment that we are in right now, I cannot predict what's going to happen in 20 years from now. So we use 5-year rolling average bonds or bond types in folks' portfolio. And that's a very important part because that's questions that you, the listener, to talk to your advisor. If it's us, if it's someone else, but you need to ask that question, what type of fixed or bond type of money, when I put it away for my 401k, for my IRAs, for my investments, what type of bonds do I have? Do I have a 5-year bond in there or do I have a 20-year bond in there?
Yeah, and those are the questions that really do need to be asked. And, you know, the world has changed. The market's changed, investing's changed. So whereas before the word bond always conjured up, oh, that's safe, guaranteed rate of return. You see what's happening now that there are municipalities going bankrupt, going bad on their bonds. Well, shoot, municipality bonds were always supposed to be the safest thing you could do. And now you see this issue with interest rates. So FINRA doesn't often come out and warn people against things. So it's just something to be aware of.
Good point. The other thing is we talked about the bonds and bond types, but think about something else. We agree that nothing you're wearing today or driving today is made in the U.S. So we are also a big believer of diversification globally and invest in all markets, invest in many different asset classes. So something else you need to understand, folks, when you do make investments with the people you're working with, you need to create some type of peace of mind. And peace of mind gives us, a better feeling of ourselves, what we do, why we do what we do. The other thing we talk about all the time, because of all the information we get, who are you believing today? What are you reading today? Who are you speaking to today? We want to give you information that's clear, concise, and proven to get you to understand no one has a crystal ball on trying to pick the stock market. No one can tell me what's going to happen tomorrow because if I could, Traci, I would not be here with you today.
No.
I would be probably on an island someplace. Enjoying
far
myself.
away from me.
Yes, far away. No, I would love the next. Have you part of the other part of the island.
Great.
But when you think about it, it's diversification, it's rebalancing, it's staying prudent, it's having a philosophy. And the last thing I think all of us should understand, because some folks ask me, well, what should I put away? How much? Well, our rule of thumb is at least 15 to 20% of your gross income.
Don't you love how people cringe when they hear that number sometimes?
I hate to even say it sometimes. It saddens me when I tell them that, and I go, what? You mean yes, you have to if you want to be where you want and would like to be, you need to start to think not only long term, but you need to be prudent. Start to say to yourself, I need to be putting away a lot more than I'm putting away now. With you, Traci, it's beautiful because you're young. You have a timeline that's great. You have many years to continue to put money away and deal with all the different type of markets. On the other hand, you have somebody in their 60s or older, and I met somebody just recently that told me what they had, and I cringed because they had so much in credit card debt, plus upside down on some real estate, and didn't save any money. You know, what do I do? It's hard to continue to talk to people when you don't think long term, number one. And number two, you got to have a plan in place. You got to start to say, how much do I need or want to retire? And I got to make a commitment now, because if I don't, I'm going to be working for the rest of my life.
Sure. And if the past few years have told us anything, it's you need to make sure that you have a rainy day fund, because rainy days come and sometimes they last for a long, long time. So the most important thing, and you won't hear too many financial advisors say this too often, is beyond where you're saving, just save. Just save 15 to 20%. And then we'll, look at rebalancing and diversifying. But committing to that number really is the first thing. And there's no easy way around it, unfortunately. Well, it hurts.
Well, not only that, and Trey, we talked about this, and we sit down with clients. I have heard you say to clients many times, you want to take the fear out of the market because they don't know. They think the sky's going to fall. And, our ideas and what we say to people, because a lot of the stuff that people are doing, unfortunately, are emotionally driven. It's that emotion that drives them to do certain things. We did that back in 2000 with the tech bubble, 2008 just recently with the real estate markets and the mortgage dilemma. So it's got to a point where we chase things, and then all of a sudden we realize that not a good way to look at things, and emotion sometimes takes over our buying decisions.
Well, it's difficult not to be emotional, I think, when we look at things that relate to our money. Because number one, it's our money. Number two, our money is related to the things we do with our families, our health, our careers. And number three, we see whatever the people on the news and in the magazines and books are saying. And everybody loves a good car crash. That's ratings. So there's constant fear. And depending on what channel you watch, what magazine or what newspaper you read, the facts may not change, but the way they're delivered can be quite skewed. So sometimes, I'll listen to something and it sounds like good times are ahead and the roads will be paved in gold, and then I'll change the station and all of a sudden we're bunkering down for the next Great Depression and the apocalypse.
We see that all the time.
And I freak out.
I hear you. And it's nerve-wracking. And for us, doing it like we do, it's a constant conversation to get people. But it's a constant conversation with people thinking, oh, what do I do? How do I do this? And it's really not that difficult, but we kind of hold your hand through a lot of the things, and we call it coaching. So we coach you through these ups and downs, and we find that by coaching you, no different than a high school coach or a college coach or a teacher that you might have had, we take you through a process to teach you that it's not as difficult as it may be. And it's a simple method of how we do what we do.
Absolutely. And I do invite you to give us a call if you have any questions, 856-751-1771, or drop us a line at www.jmlfinancialgroup.com. We'll have our upcoming seminar schedule on there as well. We've been getting some great questions in, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But please do give us a call. And if you have a personal issue that you'd like to take a look at, as far as your financial, personal therapy.
Issue. What do you are like a psychiatrist.
Personal finance, you know what? That's what it feels like sometimes.
It's your personal financial
We
coach.
invite you to come into our office. We have offices throughout the Cherry Hill, South Jersey area, 856-751-1771. I don't want to be anyone's therapist. Thank you.
We attack this, and our core beliefs are, I guess it would be similar to a book, how we plan, and we take many chapters in our book. The first thing we talk about is have a game plan or a game board, like football, like tennis, like any of this other things that we both play sports on. There's got to be lines, and we need to play within the lines, basically, what I'm saying to all of you. The second thing, you need to have rules to the game and understand the rules. Like we talk about this all the time. What will taxes be in the future? You know, inflation.
I have no idea.
Right. And
Just up.
Right. And you know it's going to be up because you see it happening right now. And the risk, will risk go up or down or continue to go up and down? And we need to be aware of that.
Well, and managing your risk as you get older and as your life changes. You said it earlier. Somebody at younger stages of their life has a different risk tolerance than somebody else. And nothing kills me more than when I see, a 60, 70-year-old person in the office retired with the same amount of risk that a 35-year-old should be taking.
Right.
And to the opposite of that, though, you 35-year-olds out there, you don't have to drive in the slow lane. You can take a little risk possibly yourself.
The other thing we always talk about, and again, has it not attacked us yet, is inflation.
Yep.
Now, we're going to start to see that going forward because we're starting to see a little bit of it now. And inflation being what you do a lot of is Medicare. You're seeing cutting back. And
healthcare costs just exploding.
The donut hole closing. A lot of these things that you do, if you want to take a call out to our veterans, we have an affair with.
Yeah, I will talk about that in a minute. But as far as inflation, I hear a lot of people all the time say that it's not really a big problem right now. It's been hovering around 4%. Well, 4% may be an average, and maybe some things have not taken a toll. But ask a parent who's paying for their child's college if there's inflation. Ask a senior citizen who's recently had a health issue and been in and out of doctors and hospitals. Ask them how inflation is and if things are priced accordingly. And I think you'll get a very different answer. It's not just what a gallon of milk was 5 years ago versus today. Inflation it's around us, and things are not getting cheaper.
No, it's not. I know that the cost that I'm paying my daughter to go to college, it's the first year versus the fifth year. I'm a fifth-year student. Has not gone down. It increased. The other thing I talk about is the stimulator. Now, things that means to all of us is basically, can you test things against someone else? Is it better to have a IRA?
Simulator?
Simulator. A simulator tests things against each other, like strength against strength and size against size and weight against weight. So let me give you an example to that. IRAs versus a Roth IRA. And
we can definitely test between both of them and see which is better, which we do talk about with clients. But we are going to take a break. And when we get back, maybe you'll talk about the simulator, but I think I would like to take a few questions because we've got a boatload of questions that we got in. That okay with you?
That's okay with me.
All right. We'll see you after the break.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I heard you, Joe.
I mean the listening audience, Tracy.
Okay, when?
Every Saturday at 1 o'clock, we get real about money and we have fun.
That's right. We'll simplify all the issues when it comes to your money and give you some tips on how to make it, protect it, and keep it.
But they have to listen.
Okay, you can only ask nicely.
All right. That's Main Street Money with Joe Yacovitch and Tracy Kelly, Saturday at 1 p.m. on Cruisin' 92.1 WVLT.
Everyone, we're back. It's Main Street Money on Cruisin' 92.1 FM. We are talking all kinds of stuff that's going on. Good stuff, optimistic stuff in the economy.
All good stuff. All good stuff going in the right direction, seeing big things happen over the next year. I know Ben Bernanke is thinking about never, let's hope, raising rates at least till 2015 they're talking about. So we have a low interest sensitive environment right now. Which is good for housing and people buying new homes and potentially refinancing. So all positive stuff, all good, solid, booming things over the next 12 months we look at.
Great. And speaking of positive stuff, I want to let everybody know of an upcoming event that we're taking part of. It's going to be the first annual Veterans Roundtable Briefing, and that is next week already. Wednesday the 27th of February, 2013. And that's going to be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Blackwood Armed Forces Reserve Center, which is in Blackwood, obviously. You can go to CamdenCounty.com or give us a call, 856-751-1771. Joe and I are going to be panelists. It's going to be an interesting and fun day. There will be lunches served, but we're going to be talking about all different kinds of benefits that are available to the veterans out there. And we salute the veterans. We love working with you guys. And I've got to tell you, there's so many benefits out there that you're not taking advantage of. So I would love, we would love to see you come down if you can. February 27th, Wednesday, 11 to 1 o'clock. And we're going to be going through the new Armed Services building, which, Joe, we saw was pretty cool, right?
Pretty impressive. Very, very impressive. Had a good time, met a lot of nice people. Colonel Bancroft is going to be there with us, and we're looking forward to that. It should be a nice event. We should have, we're hoping, anywhere between 100 and 200 people there. So I'm looking forward to that event and that venue, and getting a chance to meet a lot of folks. So
yeah, absolutely. Again, February 27th. 11 to 1, www.jmlfinancialgroup.com, 856-751-1771 if you need more information on that or if you have a question for us. Speaking of questions, we've had quite a few actually in the last week, since last week. Some questions about all kinds of different stuff.
You want to shoot some questions?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can you handle it?
You have the questions. So
I do. Okay.
Try to stump the.
Yeah. First one is from Jack in Woodbury, and he writes, I'm 55 and still working, and I want to take advantage of the current low interest rates by refinancing my home. I've already spoken to a loan officer and have the ball rolling. I think a 30-year mortgage is the way to go, but my wife wants 15 years. She's afraid of carrying any debt into retirement. What's your view, 15 or 30?
A couple questions. Number one, are you in good health? How long are you going to be working? Another big question, do you plan on staying in a home for completely through retirement and then thereafter? If you are, then 30. And if you do have the same philosophy of staying for 30 years, both you and your spouse, you buy a 30 and you pay it like a 15. So what you would normally do is whatever the 15-year rate would be, you buy a 30 and the difference between a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage, you put it into a side count. A side count just getting 3 or so % interest will basically after 15 years be enough if you had plans of paying off the remaining 15 years and still stay in your home free and clear. But if you decide after 15 years to leave, you still have the money in one hand and you'll have some debt against the other with the property. But at the end of the day, it's a question of do you stay? Do you stay on for 30 or do you end up moving after X amount of years? So big question. That a couple of questions we would clear up first before we made a final decision on a 15 or 30.
Now,
30.
Joe, let's assume, just for argument's sake, that this couple is planning to remain in that home and, probably retiring at a normal target date somewhere between 65 and 70, let's say. Now, I don't know. Are you an advocate of trying to pay down that home and now locking that money into an illiquid asset, being the home, and not maybe stretching out that debt and using the remainder, that difference cash flow, to start funding or to continue beefing up retirement accounts because you can't borrow for retirement. So as much as it's great to have equity in your house isn't going to give you a loan.
Well,
it can.
Not necessarily 100% with that. You can always do a reverse mortgage starting after the age of 62, so you can and could take a withdrawal as a reverse mortgage that we do. We talk to people about all the time. We're doing one right now. We could do that. It depends on a couple of things, Tracy. It depends on cash flow. Are you planning on working past 65 or so? Because some folks, they might work into their 70s. I mean, we're seeing more and more of that, so it's not out of the question where someone says, you know what, I plan on working, or I can get a part-time position or be a consultative person for a company or such. So there's a lot of variables. How healthy are you?
Why does health have a factor on this?
Because what happens if you become disabled prematurely? What happens to the payment of the home? You know, we don't want to lock all the money up in a home right away. And for those of you that don't understand that, you know, we're big believers when you do get a mortgage, right behind it, get a line of credit. Now, I say that to all of you as part of the planning process I take you through. Why? Because if you became disabled in the third, fourth, fifth year of your mortgage and went back to the bank to borrow money, first thing they're going to ask you is, do you have a JOB? Are you working? No, I'm not. I'm disabled. So they're not going to lend you any more money. But if you, right behind the mortgage, you put and set up a line of credit. So in the event, if you needed the money in an emergency and or a disability, they would not ask you that question. Could you have it outstanding and prepared to take it? You don't have to use it, but you have the ability to be able to withdraw dollars and not have to go back to the bank to show your insurability and find out if you are disabled. So it depends on a couple of issues. We're big believers in some ways to paying the debt off as soon as possible. But the other thing you seem to neglect is that you lose your deductions. It's one of those only vehicles right now presently that are still tax deductible. So it's a tax strategy besides a cash flow strategy, besides a distribution strategy when it comes to, you know, doing a reverse mortgage, maybe as a last alternative to you. So.
And how about the issue of maintaining a decent amount of debt into retirement? I know a lot of my clients are in the post-retirement era, and they worry about having too much debt. And common sense will tell you, well, when there's less income coming in, shouldn't I have less debt?
Well, absolutely. There's the only drawback to this is that can you earn a better rate of return than the current interest environment? Right now, interest environments are in the 3% range. We have products that we show our clients that sometimes give us 5 to 7%. So in that case, it makes sound sense to continue to keep debt because, remember, it would be the only other way to deduct or get a tax deduction by, don't forget, when you're paying back a 3% rate or a 3.5%, whatever the rate currently is today, you take a tax deduction on that investment. So there's a couple of different ways to skin the cat. It depends on cash flow. You definitely want to try to pay down your debt. But in this case, you might say, you know what, I have a really low rate and I'm earning more by putting the difference away into a vehicle that gives me a 5 or 7% rate. So in that case, it might make more sense to continue the debt into retirement.
So, Jack, I think the answer is it depends.
Correct.
And it really does depend. And when you are getting a mortgage or you're refinancing, it truly becomes an overall financial planning question, not just a simple loan question. So we encourage all of our clients, if you are refining, if you're buying a new home, use your mortgage broker as the expert, but please do consult us because we realize that one little product being your mortgage can have a big effect on your overall financial plan. So,
and something else, Traci, because of the timing of what's happening in the environment right now in terms of real estate, it is the best time right now to buy.
Sure, if you can afford it.
Correct. And the upside potential in doing a mortgage versus what the property intended to be or starting to go up makes more sense to do it that way. On the flip side, when the market went out of control in 07 and 08, you saw what just happened. So again, as you said, it depends on cash flow, length of stay in the area you're going to be in. Can you rent it? Do you plan on using it? Do you plan on paying it off and take a reverse mortgage? Do you plan on taking full tax deduction? But one more thing that I don't think you seem to forget, Traci.
What's that?
Do you still want to clean gutters out when you're 75 years old?
I don't want to do it now.
So again, it becomes one of those, like you say, it depends on a lot of variables, and we talk about those type of variables.
Absolutely. Very good. All right, next question here is, hi, Joe and Tracy. Love your show. I own a small business and am paying a lot for health insurance. I have a 69-year-old employee who's a huge asset still, but she is the most expensive part of my health care. I'm wondering if there are options out there. I really don't want to cut her off, and that's not an option to me, but this is expensive. Can you help?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have another one besides that call we've taken. We have one right now. I think, Tracy, we're going through it right now with one of our companies that the woman's
One of our clients.
I think 69 or 70. And you want to share with the audience what we did. We were on a small group. I think it was like 6 or 7 people on the group, and one of the people working, I think it was 69 or 70, she happened to be the mother of one of the owners. And I think I asked you to work with those folks, and what did you end up doing?
Right. Well, it's not a unique position for small business owners when you have employees creeping up in age. Like I always say, when we get older, we don't tend to get healthier. So it makes sense that health insurance costs get higher. So it becomes a burden on the business owner because health insurance is very expensive no matter what. So in talking to this client, and to answer your question here, there are other options. And if your business is small enough, being under about 25 on the health plan, that person absolutely must have Medicare Part A and B to be primary. They absolutely must. If she does not have her Medicare A and B, she could be in big trouble, because if something happens, the insurance company is going to say, we're not primary, we're not the primary. Now, if you have more, if you're a bigger company, she may not have to. However, as a business owner, you have to look at the options and say, you know what, I don't want to cut you off, but this is very expensive. So a better option is making sure that person is on traditional Medicare, A and B. For most people, that B premium is going to be about $144 per month, and A is free. Let's say you've paid into it all those years. So the next step is, you don't want to just leave them with A and B because there's a ton of gaps. You can check with your current insurer. So maybe you have Aetna, maybe you have Horizon, maybe you have Oxford, and see what they offer to supplement. But then I would go and check a separate outside company or a separate outside supplemental policy, whether that's a traditional Medigap Medicare supplement, which can be anywhere from $150 to $400 a month, depending on the person, or a Medicare Advantage plan, which is a traditional HMO. And those can run anywhere from $0 to $250 a month.
It almost sounds like when I ask the same question, there's a lot of different options.
There are a lot of different options, but the bottom line option is it usually pays to investigate an individual Medicare supplemental type coverage. It really does. Even if you as the employer decide that you want to pay for that, it may be an individual policy. You can still say, I'll pay that for you. But it makes a whole lot more sense because, you know what, the group health insurance policies, there's a reason they charge that much. It makes more sense to go onto a Medicare supplemental policy, which I counsel people with them every day. There's some really fantastic policies out there that cover much better than even some group health policies. So You are not doing a disservice to this person. You're actually doing them quite a service.
Good point, Tracy.
But my last disclaimer here, do your homework because there's some bad policies out there. Make sure you're working with somebody who understands it.
And you're that person.
I am. 856-751-1771, www.jmlfinancialgroup.com. Okay. Oh, we almost already talked about this. My broker suggested I buy some long-term bonds to give me some safety in my portfolio. What do you think? I don't even think we have to answer that.
Pass. Just remember, folks, you can't go too long-term with bonds because of the interest rates on where they are today, even though in the next 2 or 3 years they're going to stay somewhere where they are right today. But remember, when they start to go up, what happens to your bond price? It goes down. So be aware of that. Just be aware of what the pressure of what's happening with interest rates going up is much more than they're going to go down any further than they are.
Okay. Next question. I'm having trouble deciding what to do with two old 401k balances. I've left two different jobs and have a decent amount in both accounts, and they've both just been sitting there. Neither one's doing horribly, but they're not doing great either. I have friends who have kept theirs where they are, and I have people who are telling me I need to do something with them. Do I?
Well, good question. We love that one. We like to consolidate into a IRA. There's a lot of savings there. Just the fact that, the cost itself to run, two accounts versus one account, there's savings there. Two, we want to do a free market investment analysis on you. We want to make sure you have the right type of dollars being diversified the right way, prudently. We've talked about that earlier, making sure there's no overlapping. You see some of these folks that have different IRAs, and what happens, or 401ks, you have the same investments in both or different accounts. So we like to consolidate those investments together so we drive the cost down, be diversified, and really look at the long term. Again, how old are the folks? What type of risk tolerance do they like or do not like, and such. So what we do is we look at their numbers, we put the money together into one account, and we diversified globally, and making sure we rebalance and we stay in the market.
Joe, you mentioned that we do a free market investment analysis on the accounts that we see come into us from other areas.
Right.
Why don't you explain to everybody what that means?
A free market investment analysis is that we run with clients. We take what you currently have and we bring it into house, and we show you exactly, almost like an X-ray, an MRI of your money. We'll show you the turnover. We'll show you what it has done over the last, in our case, since 1973. If it's been around that long, we show you the manager's costs. We show you all the internal charges, turnover, history, diversification. We pretty much show you exactly from an MRI point of view on what is happening with the account. And then we put together a portfolio side by side with current assets, and we give you a choice of portfolios. We give you the most conservative, a little bit more aggressive, and so forth. And what we determine is, are you taking too much risks for the return versus do you like less risk and better return? So we do a free market analysis that will show us exactly what you own and why it makes more sense to diversify and be in a market where the market goes up or down. It does not matter. It's almost the analogy I use with the Disney World example. It's like being in Disney World. Some days, these little kiosks that you're walking around, they sell what?
Well, the kiosks, I remember selling sunscreen.
Sunscreen. But sometimes it's not a good day, so they also sell what?
Ponchos.
When it rains. So in our portfolio, we try to show you both sides, selling you or presenting ponchos and sunscreen to keep your portfolio more in level as opposed to these big, monstrous swings that you see, and you get nervous when they start to go down.
Yeah, and there's two factors when you look at that analogy. You have the protection element of I'm protected from the sun if it's sunny, and I'm protected from the rain if it's rainy. But if I'm Disney World, those two factors are I want to make money every day I'm open. So if it's sunny, I'm making money. And if it's rainy, I'm making money. So that's what we really look at with these portfolios is not only are you protected in every case and every scenario, but you're making money because we like to make money.
No, absolutely. You need to understand how portfolios work, how money works. It's just not in U.S. It's across the globe today. And if you understand that, you see what's happening. And unfortunately, most portfolios are not globally diversified. They're just in domestic U.S. So you need to have some domestic U.S. You need some micro caps, small caps, large caps, value growth. And again, you need to be in the market, not getting out when the market goes down and jumping in cash and then getting back in when the market starts to go back up again. That's not the philosophy. It's staying prudent, true, writing down, in our case, some goals and objectives, and basically staying in the same idea and philosophy going forward for long term, because it's not a short-term play here, folks. No matter if you tell me you want to get in and out of the market, it does not work that way. It's impossible, because the information that we all see is current and out there every single day. So we see it. What do we do? How do we adjust to it? Well, we stay in the market and ride the ups and downs and be diversified and rebalance, and we win the game.
Yeah, and it's really just having a plan and reviewing that plan. Just making that plan and then tucking it in a drawer somewhere and
forgetting about it, right?
Never looking at it again, because things change. Life changes, the environment changes, and we need to look at how those changes are affecting that plan that maybe we made 2-3 years ago. What are taxes doing now? Because taxes are just as important factor as market growth.
Right.
Because we want to make sure that one doesn't outweigh the other, being taxes outweigh that market growth. And with what's going on today, who knows?
Well, it's a good point, Tracy, because it takes in consideration where will taxes be in the future. So for us, we like to see our clients be in some vehicles, products that will give you either a tax-efficient distribution or a tax-free distribution. And they are products out there that offer this. You just got to have to be somewhat educated on them, and it's very simple. But you need to be aware of there's products out there and vehicles out there that will offer you a tax-free or tax-efficient distribution. Remember, I talked to you last week about accumulation, distribution, and legacy planning. Well, the part of what we talk about is, okay, you get into the game through distribution, but how do you get out of the game?
You get into the game through accumulation.
Right. And what happens when you get out of the game, you might be in a higher tax bracket than you are presently now, because we both don't know what taxes will be in the next 10 to 15, 20 years.
And how many times do we hear from somebody, well, I'm not that concerned about that because I'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. And you and I both know that that's not often true. First of all, if you actually look at the tax brackets out there and the numbers, you would be surprised that you probably will be in a similar tax bracket. And by the way, if I'm in a lower tax bracket, I don't have as much money. So
right.
That's not good either. And who knows where taxes are going? You always say that. And I saw a tagline today going back to this. I hate to talk about it, but it's in the news, this sequestering. They called it a budget free fall, budget free fall that no one can ignore or afford.
Well, I think one of the reasons that was brought up for us, what we see is, there's 10,000 folks per day turning 65. That never happened before. So the pressure, added pressure of the government dealing with Social Security and Medicare that we talked about all the time, and because of health care and people not living, in the perfect condition, we talked about, the older we get, we don't get sometimes healthier. Where would taxes going to be? That's the biggest concern of ours.
Yeah, and it's just a media frenzy at this point, and quite honestly, a little irritating to me. But it really comes down to that same old question of there's too much spending and there's too much debt. And how do we wring the money out of our country to pay for these things? And is it all about taxing a certain group more than another? And let's not kid ourselves, Joe. We complain about this stuff sometimes. Is the more that money will be needed, the more the government's going to get creative about getting that money.
You got it. But into something else we always say.
What's that?
Long term. And we do not know what taxes and inflation will be.
No, we don't.
Do you know more than me about what taxes will be the next 5 years? Have you seen taxes go up where you live?
Yes.
Yes,
I have.
Substantially, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that?
You don't. You just pay.
You pay. But going back to what we've been talking about the whole hour is that you need to be in a portfolio or getting a better rate of return than what your taxes are going to end up taking from you. So there's a strategy involved with that. It's tax efficiency, what we do, rebalancing, staying long term. And that's kind of how you want to win the game, especially now. Do not get frenzied or nervous of what's happened to the market. Stay fixed, stay long, keep on investing, and we'll both win the game here, all of us. So it's an important fact. You want to add anything before we sign off here, Tracy?
No, I just want to remind everyone again about the Veterans Briefing on February 27th. Next week at the Armed Services Building. You can go to CamdenCounty.com, or you could give us a call, 856-751-1771, or go to www.jmlfinancialgroup.com. Should be a great event, and I definitely hope to see a lot of you there.
I think there's going to be somewhat food involved.
There will be not somewhat food. There will be food.
Are you bringing anything special, or we're just going to show up and show up?
No, I think we're just going to cater. I would love to, but that would be taking on quite the task there.
Yes. You're not ready for that?
That would definitely. No, I'm ready for it. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Before we sign off, I had Tracy, I think you sat in for a little bit of disappointment when we had one of our good friends talking to us about this client we got referred by an attorney client, and they came in our office, and when they sat in our office, it was amazing to me that when we had our conversation like we were talking about now, they got it immediately. Now, this person was a business owner, but they got it immediately, understanding how even in their own business of lowering taxes is a plus thing, but their taxes were going up, what they were doing, how they were diversifying, what type of insurance were in place. So I think we convinced them that how we do what we do was pretty overwhelming, and the person that referred that client to us was an attorney, and start to feel that we had everything together and fit together a very, very nice way of planning for our clients, especially our business clients.
Well, that's what we like to hear from people.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive when I heard that.
And that's what keeps us going every day, for sure, is being able to help people and really just doing what we do every day for that reason.
Well, we love what we do, that's for sure. There's no question about it, and we enjoy it, and it's a fun time, and we always want to stay on top of our game. Tracy and I, we pretty much talk to each other daily about certain things and how to improve on our clients' portfolios, and we talk to a lot of different people. But at the end of the day, we say the same thing: it's stay prudent, stay fixed, be in the market, and be diversified. So that's pretty much how we win the game, and because of that, the cost of doing it that way actually diminishes. It actually goes down.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
It does. And I know that it can be frustrating and it can be troublesome. And sometimes you listen to people like us who say that there's hope and there's optimism out there and you don't believe it. But, we'd love to talk to you, and we'd love to maybe see if there's something that we can see that you don't. So www.jmlfinancialgroup.com or 856-751-1771. And I think that is going to do it for our time this week.
Well, I look forward to see you next week on our 92.1 Cruising Main Street Money with Tracy Kelly and Joe Yacovitch. We look forward to seeing you every Saturday from 1 to 2.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, everybody.